Hey everyone, this is Espion, and I'm here with an updated physics video. You may have seen my last video on this topic, but since then, I've talked to Corey from Psionics, and I have more confirmation on how exactly the physics in this game work. If you missed the video, it can be found in the description, but this video is basically a more accurate and polished version, so it's not necessary to watch it first. However, if you like winged MS Paint graphics, perhaps you'll want to check it out for fun. Anyway, let's get on to the video. In physics, vectors have two components, a magnitude and a direction. The magnitude, in the case of Rocket League, is the speed, and it's represented by the length of the vector. The direction, as you may have guessed if you're really thinking, is the direction that the vector is pointing. In order to understand this video, you'll need to understand how vector addition works, so I'll explain that real quick. So you have two vectors, the ones pictured on the screen. If you put the beginning of the second vector at the end of the first one, then the result will be the vector that goes from the beginning of the first one to the end of the second one. If you want to subtract two vectors, you simply take the negative, or the opposite of the second vector, and do the same, as you see here. Now let's take a look at how this applies to an aerial at the point of contact. First, let's calculate how powerful the hit the collision is going to create. Roughly speaking, it'll be the difference between the velocity vector of the car and the velocity vector of the ball. Here we see the velocity vector of the car, which is a vector in the direction that the car is moving, with the length corresponding to the speed of the car. These lengths are relative, so all that matters is that the ratio between the length of two vectors is correct. So a car moving twice as fast, while the vector twice as long. Next, let's look at the velocity vector for the ball. In order to calculate how powerful the hit will be, we need to subtract these two vectors. As I described earlier, take the negative of the ball's velocity and add it to the car's velocity. The length of this vector indicates the amount of power that will be applied to this ball. However, this is not the direction that the hit is applied. The direction uses a different vector, a vector from the center of mass of the car to the center of mass of the ball. So the overall hit is applied in this direction, but with the power we calculated earlier. So we take the power vector and align it with the direction vector, and we get the overall hit vector. If we add this vector to the current velocity vector of the ball, we get the vector, which will be the velocity vector of the ball after the hit. Now obviously, you're not going to be able to perfectly calculate this vector when you make a hit. However, it can be useful to think about certain parts of it. If you want the ball to go a certain direction, you now know how to calculate how to hit the ball so it will go in that direction. If you want to maximize the power, you simply try to maximize the difference between your car's velocity and the ball's velocity. Now, it should be noted that the example I used was mostly in two dimensions, as the ball was pretty much coming right at my car. Normally the hit will take into account all three dimensions, but all that requires is extending the vector to an additional dimension, and everything works the exact same way. This has a lot of implications in various aspects of the game, but there are far too many for me to go over all in one video. I'll be putting out more videos focusing on these details in the future. I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you'll stay tuned for those future videos. Thanks for watching.